I got up early, got a good night's sleep, and I started really thinking up. Look at my hand covered in pen marks from my drawings today. Let's see, my phone seems to have frozen. Let's see what's going on with that. Hello, hello, hello. Let's try this again. Okay. Yeah, there's been some weird stuff with my internet connection here recently. So I got up early this morning and I was thinking about what I want to create, tools that I want to create, because for me, on my heart particularly, is teaching these principles to young people and to kids. And so one of the tools I wanted to create was a color brochure. So I got up and I started, when I was doing my meditation today, I started looking at creating kind of a I don't know, like not like a cartoon strip, but something kind of like that, where it's like a color brochure which teaches these principles in a really simple way to children. So I've been playing with that and thinking about what's the best way to explain this stuff in a simple tool that parents can use for their kids. So what are the principles, right? It's going through each of the principles of saying, first of all, what is it? I'm aware, I'm a conscious being, I own my body. And what are all the principles that kids need to understand about this concept of ownership in their body, right? So it's that, like, I don't hit little Susie, I don't pull her hair, I don't pinch, things like that, right? And then on the next layer of principle, it's creations. What do I create when I draw my little painting, my picture? It gets put on the fridge, right? That's my creation. I've created that. I can give it as a gift to somebody. Or, you make your lemonade stand and you're selling lemonade. That goes to the level of the deal. Maybe you're a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout and you're out there selling cookies, right? You're out making a deal. You're taking something that you own, something that you bought, or something that your parents bought probably, and you're selling it for money, for an exchange. And then the last layer is the layer of the effect. So the effect is when we're talking about what is the looking forward and saying, how do I mitigate the damages? If there was something, either something that my hair sticking out, either something that I didn't see, that maybe I didn't foresee, that was a damaging effect of my actions, then I try to mitigate it. But if it is something that I do foresee, that this is a probable bad effect of my actions, then mitigating that beforehand. Right? So these are the principles that we can think about. And it also teaches you, what are my rights? My right to my body. I have a right to contract. That's what we call it in the Constitution. I have the right to make a deal with my own resources. But I also have a responsibility. I also have a principle. I have a responsibility not to harm someone else's body, not to harm their creations. I have a responsibility not to make a bad deal, right? What's a bad deal look like? If I lie or I use undue pressure, right? Anything that invalidates the deal, that's a bad deal. So I have the right to have these things, right? And I'm also responsible for my effect, right? So each of these layers moves out in sort of our level of responsibility, because as the layers move out from the body, from the central point, they tend to mix with other people's efforts as well. So then it becomes more than one person that has the right and that is responsible, you see? So that's how we think about it. And I'm thinking about, like, how can I do this in a fun way for kids and make it where, like there's cartoons and stuff like that for them. So yeah, that's what I was working on, and gonna have to find a good graphic designer or someone who can help me put this together, probably in Canva. But I was getting down the basics of it, just like an initial basic tool, something like just a simple little brochure, fold out brochure that parents can use to remind them and to teach these principles to their children, and teachers as well. It'd be great for teachers too. Teach them the fundamental principles of how we interact in the world without violating and harming other people. So that's what I'm working on this morning. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. I mean, this is the vision. This is the dream. How do we put these things into the collective consciousness, into the consciousness of people? And to me, it's so important to teach this to young people, because kids, teenagers, they're the ones that face so much confusion in the world today, and so much difficulty, right? There's just so much coming at them. There's so much confusion with the internet and TV, and everyone saying this is the way and I'm right. And, well, who cares about, morality or principles, or, how do we know if anything is true? They're just faced with all of this onslaught of stuff. And this can give them the foundation. It gives them the principles for how they can know that they can live their life and how they should expect other people to treat them, right? And that gives them a strong foundation that they can stand on. And when you have conviction, that gives power, right? There's great power in conviction when you can say, look, I know this is true. I have a right to my body. You don't get to touch it, and you don't get to mess with me, right? It gives them that strength. It gives them that sense. So, you know what I just thought of? So this is an example of the differences between men and women, of how we think between men and women. Okay. Do you know how in the movies, right? Sorry, I've got all my pen marks all over my hands from my drawing this morning. But you know how in the movies, when we would have hey Pompeo, you'd have a man that would be like, don't touch me, right? And someone like touches his body, right? Like that. And he's like, don't touch me, don't touch me. And then it's totally valid. Like if the guy does it again, then he like punches him, right? And we consider like, wow, okay, that's great. That's valid. That's good. He was defending himself. The guy touched his body. It's not cool. You don't touch a guy's body, right? It's totally, completely obvious. Like in so many movies, right? You see that scenario, okay? What about on the other end with women's bodies? Do we see that in the same way with women's bodies? No, we don't see that with women's bodies. What do we see when we see things like that with women's bodies? We see a man reach out and grab a woman, right? And maybe it's done in passion or whatever, but it's not like this sense of, well, that's morally wrong, or, she has a right to defend herself. It's like, oh, he's like interested in her, right? Oh, he likes her. It's just this such a weird dichotomy when you actually think about it logically, when you break it down, that we have this totally different sense in the movies, in the media, right? For what it is when a man reaches out and grabs a woman or touches her, right? Or in these music videos, right? He's grabbing her ass, or he's grabbing her body or something in some way, right? And yet on the other hand, we don't see movies of that happening to men. We don't see that in music videos, right? The top guy in the music video isn't standing there rapping away and other guys are coming up and grabbing him, It's like, no, he's like, I'm master of my world, right? So it's hilarious when it's sad, right? But when you think about it and when you see what is going on, hey, Elena, nice to see you. You see just this dichotomy. It's a weird dichotomy. And I just thought of it, how we have this perception around men's bodies that if you touch a man's body or you push him, right, you violated him in some way. And that makes him it makes it justified for him to punch someone else or to fight them because they touched him, right? And we see it all the time in the movies. And yet the opposite is true when we're looking at men's interaction with women's bodies, right? All the time, it's just like we see it in the movies, in the music videos, and everything, where it's like free access to a woman's body. You can touch her, you can grab her. If you pull her in, it just means that she's a sexual being and that, you like her, right? It's just, and it just seems totally okay, right? That you can interact with a woman's body in that way, even without her initial knowledge, right? Maybe she's walking by and you grab her Or, you know, she's walking out the door in the movies and this one grabs her and pulls her in and is like, ooh, you know, and grabs her and tries to kiss her or something. So we see this all the time in the movies where it looks like it's okay to do that to a woman. But can you imagine, right? You know, you've seen that movie of John Wayne where he, you know, the woman is like, they're having a fight and the woman is stomping out and he like grabs her, he pulls her back, you know, and it's like really forceful with her, you know, and he like grabs her, he's like starts trying to shove his mouth on her, you know, and it's supposed to be this very romantic scene that people think. I'm like, that's sexual assault. That is not a romantic scene, okay? I don't know in whose vision that was a romantic scene, okay? And then imagine, just imagine this. Imagine if someone else came and grabbed John Wayne and pulled him into the house like that. What do you think John Wayne would do? Huh? Someone grabbed John Wayne's arm and shoved him around and pulled him around like that. I'm pretty sure the next scene in that movie with John Wayne would be his fist flying and punching him in the nose. Okay, so this is the difference. This is the dichotomy that we see in the media and the movies. And if we start to just be aware of it, right, we start to see how in the music videos and the movies, it's just like, it's just commonplace that men just grab a woman, they grab her body, they grab her butt, they pull her in, right? It's just everywhere, even in today's media, right? You see rap videos and all kinds of stuff. It just happens everywhere, and that it seems to be okay. But if you never see the opposite, you never see it the other way with a man. This is why we have this strong sense. Men have a totally different sense about their body and their space than women do. Men have a sense that this is my body, this is my property. Men have that sense, and women don't. Women have this sense because it's stripped away just by everything they see in their culture, right? That's why women have less of a boundary or less of a sense of sureness and a surety and a conviction about their right to not have somebody in their space, to not have someone touch their body if they don't want to. And but it's all over the media that of course men have a right, and if you touch them, boy, you get what you get what was coming to you. You know, you deserve that because you should have known not to touch a man, not to touch a man's body, right? So isn't that strange? Right? That's pretty strange that we have this completely different sense, and that's what's in the media. So of course women are going to struggle more with this concept. They are going to have more of a lack of conviction. It's going to be harder for them to stand up for themselves when it seems like it's okay with everything that they watch in the media and on TV and in music videos. It seems like, well, that the women, that's just what happens to women, and so I just, to be a normal woman, I should just accept that, right? That is what we are shown in the media. That is the falsehood. That's the falsehood, that differentiation. So when I explain the concept of property rights, right in your body to men, they're like, of course, you know, of course, like I already knew that. I always knew that, right? And I explain it to women, and women are like, oh my God, you're right. And it's like this great revelation and this moment of freedom for them when they realize that I am, you know, I own myself. I own my body. Nobody gets to touch it without my permission. And for men, that's just assumed because that is how they are raised in our culture, but we raise women so differently. Ani Reyes quotes is saying, why is there men and women? I do not understand. I don't know, you know. That is the way creation worked itself out, right? Male and female in the species. So I'm not quite sure what that is. But what we're getting to here is the cultural lies, the cultural falsehoods that permeate how we as men and women interact, and our ideas and thoughts about each other, and what women get to do and what men get to do, right? There's just these falsehoods that permeate our society that change our perceptions, and that is just that is a simple and glaring one. Is when you start watching TV and media, music videos, MTV, old movies, right? John Wayne movies, I don't care what it is. You go back and you watch that stuff and you see what the difference is, right? You watch a John Wayne movie and you see how, you know, some woman's walking by and he'll just, you know, he can just grab the woman and pull her in and be like, right? nobody does anything, right? But if he's walking by and some man like pushes him on the shoulder or touches him, right? All of a sudden it's like, let's have a fight. Let's have a gunfight. You offended me. Okay. So that's what I mean. There's just such a difference. And it's not something that's recent. It is way back. And if you look at it now in music videos and how women are treated and dressing in these skimpy little things, and then the men are all up grabbing them and putting their hands all over them, right? Is that happening to the guy? I don't think so. The guy's not standing there and other guys are like, hey, let me grab you, dude. He's like, no, man, I'm the big man. I get to change my body, right? So that's the difference. You'll start spotting it now that I've pointed it out to you. And I'd love for you to come on and comment. And feel free to, like, if you're like, hey, I saw this snip of this video clip that showed what it was, then I'd add that in so that we can see more examples of this, because you're going to start noticing it everywhere. There's a very different vision of how men and women are supposed to interact with their bodies and other people in our culture. And that is the vision that we have to change. That is why I want to create this for kids, so that kids can begin, each, boys and girls, with a sense of ownership in their own body, just the same, and that each is taught to respect the ownership of the other. And that is not dependent on gender. It is not a gender difference. It is simply, as human beings, we understand that each person owns their own body, and we should respect that body as a human, not as male or female, right? There shouldn't be a different standard for men and women in that. Both are to be equally respected. So, hey, Cook Without, hey, Queeno, everybody, nice to see you guys jumping in. Rewatch this video if you're just coming in now, and make sure to like it, share it, post it, because this is the key. This is the key. This is some exciting stuff. All right. I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. Okay. And like I said, post below this when you see examples of this thing where women are, it's like where someone grabs or touches a woman's body in media, in movies, in music videos, and that's just shown as being normal. And when someone touches a man's body, that's being shown as being something that's like a great affront, and that's something that they need to defend, right? Show that difference. If you find little clips of things that show that difference in the media, right, that underlying subconscious conceptual difference of how we treat things, I want you to post those links below, because I'd be really interested to see. It'd be fun to have more examples to use in this and in teaching and training. And I think it'll just help open people's minds up to see how much it is around us. Okay? All right. You guys have a great day. We'll see